So as I sit down to record this podcast, the date is June 16th, 2024. And I have once again ventured into enemy territory. Today I am in Dawson Creek, BC. If I wasn't the most popular guy in all of Dawson Creek the last time that I was here recording, I definitely am today. Because, well, last night I think that we all saw what happened with the Edmonton Oilers and the Florida Panthers. There's a long way to go in this Stanley Cup final. I'm not even going to come out and say that the Edmonton Oilers are going to win it in the end. I mean, the odds are definitely not in our favor, which I think is unfortunate. I think that some of these games have been a lot closer than what a 3-0 series suggested that it was. Or I guess I should say now, 3-1 series. Because despite the most ardent hopes of a portion of the Vancouver Canucks fan base, the Edmonton Oilers are still alive. Last night they defeated the Florida Panthers 8-1, which the way that this series had been going until now, I don't think that anybody even would have thought that something like that could have even been possible. You know, Sergei Bobrovsky had just been too good. I mean, he goalied us in Game 1. By all means, Edmonton should have won Game 1. And then came back, and he didn't quite goalie us in Game 3, but he definitely played well enough, to sneak out of there with a 4-3 win and a 3-0 series lead. And these bitter Canucks fans were basically harassing any Oilers fan that they could find on Twitter, screaming at them. It's like, oh, well, you guys are about to get swept in the Stanley Cup Final, so I guess we're better than you after all. That doesn't really compute, because you lost. You lost 2 rounds ago, and you lost to us. So by all reasonable measure, at this point, it doesn't really matter if the Edmonton Oilers get swept in the Stanley Cup Final. I mean, at least as it pertains to that. So we played you in round 2. We beat you in round 2. It means that we're better than you. It means that if you had gotten here, you guys probably would have been swept already. You guys probably would have been blown out all 4 games. Get gone. No cup for you guys, ever. Probably at the rate that you're going. It's been more than 50 years and we don't have one, so, probably ever at the rate that you guys are going. And suddenly you want to come around and sneer at us because you think that we're getting swept in the final. And, geez, I guess that didn't happen, did it? So what do you losers have now? What now? I'd love to hear it, but most of you have gone pretty quiet now. So, I did have a certain admiration for a certain portion of the Canucks fans after Game 7. And I still do. That really hasn't changed. But the one thing that has kind of changed in the meantime is that a pretty large portion of that Canucks fan base has come out and shown me just how shitty they are. A bunch of losers in every respect of that word. Because your team got beat fair and square in the second round, and now all you can kind of sit around hoping for is for the team that beat you to eventually lose. And it hasn't even entered your mind that maybe at some point you'd like to be able to make the argument that if the Edmonton Oilers hadn't won the 2024 Stanley Cup, that maybe the Vancouver Canucks would have, but that argument is not present. That argument is not present. You wouldn't have beaten the Panthers because you didn't get there because you lost to us. And that's actually there's this tremendous the tremendous kind of disconnect, like between that and the the way that the fans of the Dallas Stars acted after they lost to us in the Stanley Cup, in the Western Conference Final. That's like night and day. Dallas Stars fans actually turned out to be some of the classiest fans around, which was pretty wild, because for me, like, that series was huge, because you know what? I'm old enough that I sat through like all of those series in the late '90s and the early 2000s when we drew the Stars. Like, what the hell was it? Like 7 years in a row in the playoffs and only beat them once. Because there was no salary cap back then, and the Dallas Stars, they could just pretty much they could buy a better team than what anybody else than most other teams in the league could. And they could just put it out on the ice. They could just put all that money out on the ice, and they did. And so make no mistake about it. I mean, all through the Doug Weight era of this team, and even then through the, God, what would you call it? The Mike Comrie, Ryan Smith era of this team, that we would draw the Dallas Stars and lose every year. Yeah, the Oilers were losing to a better team, but they were losing to a team that was so much better because they could just throw money at it, and Edmonton was not in a position where they could just throw money at putting a team on the ice. So to me, that was an absolutely huge series. It was very cathartic to actually win a Western Conference championship, from the team that, walked into the playoffs and put us out of our misery, just about every year for like 7 years straight. And then the Dallas Stars, their fans, what do? I mean, they conduct themselves like the classiest people on the face of the earth, which, I mean, they're Texans. If you've ever been to Texas, then you know what the people of Texas are really like, and it doesn't really surprise you. But then somehow it just kind of feels surprising. That they turn around and they put like tens of thousands of dollars into the Ben Stelter Foundation, and then just kind of tip their hat and go on their way. Like that was very impressive. I can't even hate the Dallas Stars anymore because of how classy their fans were. Now, that being said, would that still be true if the Stars had beaten the Oilers? I don't think I would have been able to. I don't know if I would have been able to be that classy. Just kind of like what I said, like with the Canucks series, also. The number of their fans that were so classy about it. I have to admit that maybe I'll admit once again that maybe I wouldn't have been the same way about it. Although I do have personal reasons, for that, kind of relating to, I would say, one particular Vancouver Canucks fan, which, because it's not really my story to tell, I'm not going to share it here. But that individual, he knows who he is. He knows what he did. Like, deep down, he knows exactly who he is and the things that he didn't look after that he was supposed to look after. And so that actually made that feel pretty personal. But between these, with the Stars in particular, that whole thing isn't really present there. So that would have just been sheer adulterated pettiness on my part. And it's easy to sit here having won that series and to sit here and say that that maybe I wouldn't have. Well, maybe I would have. Who knows? Oh, I've got to admit that took a really dark turn there for about a minute. I actually had to take a minute and just regather my thoughts so that I could just finish. So I could finish recording this podcast segment. But I mean, as I said before, Down 3-1 in the Stanley Cup final against a team like Florida. Having already been down 3-0, so it's not like you're trying to win 3 games in a row to win. You're trying to win 4 games in a row to try to win this series. I can't just flat out say. I just can't flat out say that it's going to happen. But I know that I feel an awful lot better about the series now that the Oilers do have at least one win to put up there. To disappoint those shit-stained little bitter dork loser Canucks fans who just wanted us to flame out, get swept in the final. What's going to happen now, we don't know. We've got to play the games. That's why you play the games. But just like I said, actually, even like a couple years ago, after the Oilers did get swept, in the conference championship against the Colorado Avalanche, so many good things happened during this particular playoff run that I'm going to be at peace with it no matter what happens. But you know what? The Stanley Cup is still out there. So even if we don't get it, let's go out there and take our best run at it, and let's go out there and try to get this thing.